They say New York is the city that never sleeps. There's always something to do there if you know where to look.
Here's to Joan Jacobs of Paterson, New Jersey.
Who's Joan Jacobs?
The last eyewitness to spot the Hulk. She was pulling her driveway one night about 3 weeks ago. There he was. Lights must have startled him because he stood in front of her car long enough for her to make an accurate, if somewhat hysterical, description.
Jack isn't interested in looking for anything but the Hulk.
So that's what you're doing in New York. You think this Hulk of yours is taking in a few Broadway shows?
The Hulk's no joke, Bobby. He's real. And he's a killer. He's also the biggest knockdown, drag-out five-star final that I have ever latched on to.
And that's why you spent the last 6 months tracking down every sighting of your creature.
Not to mention burning through what has to be the most generous expense account ever. How much do they pay him to run around the country and just miss the Hulk every time?
Chicago, St. Louis, Cleveland. Jack, you're lucky that paper of yours hasn't kicked you right out on your ear. This thing is becoming an obsession with you.
Well, maybe so. But right now, the Hulk is down there, somewhere. I'm gonna find him.
And then what will you do, Jack? Sit him down for an interview? They've come face to face at least once, and Jack came away like this.
Yes, I'd like to speak with Dr. Everett Lewis, please. He's with the Genetics Research Unit. When do you expect him back? Oh, not till next Friday. All right, fine. Well, thank you very much. I'll try back then.
The most effective way to do this is to ask for an appointment. He's working in that arcade, repairing pinball machines, emptying the coin boxes, that sort of thing. David will take most any job he's offered, and if he doesn't know how to do it, he'll learn within a few days. The man who played him was quite the opposite. Let's take a moment to talk about Wilfred Bailey Everett Bixby III. We know him as Bill. He was pretty single-minded practically from birth. Acting was almost all he thought about, and he started early. He grew up in San Francisco but moved to L.A. to break into the business. A couple of producers discovered him and started putting him in commercials. In Detroit. Okay then. It wasn't long before he was landing parts in movies and TV shows, and when he became Tim O'Hara on My Favorite Martian, he also became a household name. I've said for many years that given the chance, talent will show itself, and it did. The role of Tom Corbett in The Courtship of Eddie's Father made him even more famous. He appeared in a couple of Elvis movies as well as a one-season series called The Magician. While he was working on the show, he learned to do illusions and continued to entertain people with magic tricks for the rest of his life. This right here was his last big role, though he kept acting and directing right up until cancer took him from us at the age of 59. I really want to kick Satan and the whatchamacallits for inventing that insidious disease, but I digress. The body of work that Bill Bixby left us in so short a time, as well as the fact that he seems to have been a genuinely good man, mean he'll be a name that people know for many, many decades to come. At least I hope so.
Hey, fella, this thing don't work. I want my quarterback.
Well, first, why don't you put a quarter in? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, then you get 350,000 points, so you get a replay that way. You know, I've never seen anybody do that as long as I've lived here, but I think you ought to go for it.
How's about I go for your sack?
How's about I go for a cop?
David, you're terrific.
That's a little joke they have. She's Carol, the boss's daughter, and you may have gathered that that kiss isn't just friendly. She's sweet on David, and he knows it. Too bad he doesn't dare do anything about it.
You really know how to handle people without getting angry.
Oh, are you saying that you kissed me because I didn't bodily throw you out of the arcade?
No. I kissed you because you helped me study for my diagnostic exam. I aced it.
Oh, not bad for a first-year intern doctor.
Not bad at all.
They also have some subjects in common.
You know, since you arrived here 3 weeks ago, I've been asking you questions, and you've been dancing right around them like Rudolph Nureyev. You're an intelligent, articulate man, and you should not be working in this arcade.
Yes, I know that, yes. Well, I've seriously been considering announcing my candidacy for the mayor of New York. I really think I have a chance, big chance.
From what I've seen, they could use a better one right now. But imagine being in a meeting with the city leaders, they make him angry, and the next thing they know, a big green monster is bonking their heads together. Not exactly democracy in action.
David, be serious.
I can't. Your father won't allow it during working hours. And I really don't think that this is the time or the place for a deep, philosophical conversation.
You're right. That's why I'm taking you upstairs for some homemade pecan pie. You'll talk better on a full stomach.
He can't. He's on the clock. She says, "I'm the boss's daughter. Don't argue with me." Not much a grunt worker can say to that. Okay, take me upstairs and let's have some pie.
Lou, Danny, Frank, they've all agreed. No more payoffs. But if we're going to beat Jason, we need your support. Your name means something, Norman. You're the most respected small businessman in the area.
Thanks for the compliment.
For 15 years, we've all been paying protection money to Jason. 40% off the top. I don't have to tell you how much money that is.
That's Norman, Carol's father. His friend Leo also owns a business, and we heard what the dilemma is. David and Carol just came in. She doesn't know anything about the protection racket. And it's easy to see the bond between her and her dad. These two have excellent chemistry.
David, could you tell me what 40% of $8,200 is?
$3,280.
See that? My associate's a real brain, a regular computer.
What's 10%?
You mean if we shortchange Jason?
He'll get the message loud and clear.
Norman agrees the envelope will have $820, no more. I think David is catching on.
You want to come with me just for the ride?
Where are you going?
To Uncle Jason's, but I'll be right back.
Oh, listen, I'm still on night call at the hospital. I'll save you the trip. I haven't seen Uncle Jason in months. Now you sit down and drink your coffee.
Uncle Jason. That's how he's been hiding it from her for 15 years.
How come he gets a percentage of Papa's business?
Oh, Uncle Jason owns an investment company. He's helped most of the small businessmen in the area, especially my dad.
Investment company has too many syllables. Just call it his pocket. That's where the money really goes anyway. David is really seeing red flags.
Carol, how good to see you. I'd much rather hug you than your father. It makes me feel 20 years younger.
Then we'd both be the same age.
Yes, but we'd be leaving for Rome in the morning. How are you? I'm Jason Laird.
David Blake.
Daddy's new assistant. Kind of cute, isn't he?
Robert Aldous started out in vaudeville as a singer and dancer, but he really got noticed when he played George Gershwin in the film Rhapsody in Blue. As he got older and his hair turned white, the role of the smooth, sophisticated, unruffled criminal like this became as natural to him as breathing. There's no other way I can put it. He was a good bad guy. Jason is constantly giving Carol money, buying her gifts. Basically, he's paying her off to keep believing he's the doting adopted uncle. That way, her dad keeps paying him off. His associate, Jonathan, is counting the money while Jason sees Carol and David out.
Norman Abrams only sent 800 and change. Now, either he had a bad week.
Well, there is a cancer spreading on Times Square. Maybe you're right, Jonathan. If a loyal friend like Norman is involved, this could be more serious than I thought. Somebody's got to be taught a lesson.
Jonathan has been hearing rumblings about the owners getting together and standing up to Jason. If Norman has joined them, it could mean the end of a sweet deal. They can't have that.
Norman. Have some time for me?
Certainly. Why don't we go back to my office?
Good to see you again, David.
Mr. Laird?
I would hope Norman has been expecting this. David knows Jason is trouble, so he slips into the room next door to Norman's office to listen in.
There's been some discussion among my midtown partners of dissolving their relationship with me. A relationship that's been established over the years. They want to put an end to the protection and financial aid that I've been responsible for.
Yeah, protection from what? It's one of the oldest rackets around. Nice shop you got here. Be a shame if something happened to it. Pay me and I'll make sure it doesn't.
You know anything about that, Norman?
Oh, that's just talk, Jason. You know, just talk.
That's exactly what I told Jonathan. After he'd informed me that your last payment was extremely short.
Oh, I want to talk to you about that. That was a mistake.
We already have a fair idea that Jonathan is the enforcer. He suggested a professional hitman to send these guys a message. I think Norman knows what he is too, hence the sudden change of heart. Jason says, I'm not as concerned about the payment as I am about loyalty.
But Jason, I'm loyal. You know me. I've always been loyal.
I know that, Norman. That's why I'm going to ask a favor of you.
You need a favor. I'll do anything for you. Just ask.
I wouldn't say that if I were you.
The favor I'm going to ask is, well, it requires a special kind of loyalty.
You need something, just ask.
You'll be sorry!
The man who's stirring up the most trouble, the man who's talking the loudest, is Leo Kahn. I want you to see to it that he doesn't talk anymore.
Always find out what it is before you agree. When you say, I'll do anything, a guy like Jason will test you to the limit.
Yeah, but Leo, I can't.
Of course you can. Because you're not doing this just for me. You're doing it to ensure your family's future happiness. This afternoon at 5 o'clock, meet me in my Park Avenue garage. And tell me the good news,
Norman understands that he just threatened Carol. David heard it too. He goes out searching for Leo without success, but one of Jason's goons has noticed his movements. Now Jonathan wants to talk to him.
Mr. Jason Laird would like you to come to his place.
Well, that's very gracious of him. I appreciate the invitation, but I have business upstairs.
Look, you really don't want to make me angry. And I really don't want to make you angry.
Truer words have seldom been uttered. He doesn't know how true yet.
So please, don't be difficult.
I have business upstairs.
Hey, you really don't want anything to happen to that nice little girl that just walked out the door, do you?
Now, David will be looking for an opportunity to show this guy what a bad idea it was to threaten Carol. But he's learned how to stay cool and bide his time.
David. Glad you could make it on such short notice.
What do you want?
This afternoon at 4 o'clock, get these to Eddie Franklin. If he's satisfied, tell him we've got all he can use, all top quality. If Franklin goes for it, then we know that DeMarco's backing him. These names mean anything to you, David?
No.
Jason doesn't believe him. Of all things, he's decided David is some kind of muscle from another criminal organization.
The way I figure it, you're working for either Franklin or DeMarco. Both of them are trying to force me out of Manhattan. You must be running middleman for either one of them and Leo Kahn, right?
Mr. Laird, I just got into New York. I hardly know anybody, including Mr. Franklin and Mr. DeMarco.
Too bad for David, that's exactly what he'd expect someone working for Franklin or DeMarco to say.
Would you please ask your gentleman to take me now back to the arcade so I won't lose my job?
Find out what he knows.
We know how they go about that, don't we?
What can I say that will make you believe I don't know? Anything.
Nothing.
Then I guess I'll have to tell the truth.
Get it!
Get him! He's down this way!
The problem? There aren't any doors nearby, so he's trapped in the warehouse.
Take him!
The solution? Take your shirt off. Indeed it is. He takes his revenge on the forklift, then runs away, but after he changes back, he's still limping on that leg. Now he needs to see about Norman and Leo. The last time we saw them, Norman was pointing the gun at Leo.
Norman! Oh, my God.
There's no smell of cordite, so the gun hasn't been fired. There is, however, a heavy smell of alcohol, which is to say they're both drunk on their butts.
Norman. Norman, wake up. Listen to me. Norman, can you understand me? I know what's going on. I know how you can stop Jason.
Oh, yeah, sure. We're gonna do it together, Leo. We're gonna kill Jason.
Yeah, you do that, Norman, especially since right now you can't even pick up the gun, much less point it at anything.
No, Norman. No, you don't have to kill anybody. Now listen to me. Does the name Eddie Franklin mean anything to you?
He's the biggest drug dealer in this town.
Norman is out of commission until hangover time. David finds a note about meeting Jason at 5, so he'll go in Norman's place. How fast can he grow a white mustache? Jason gave Carol a super-duper medical bag with all the accessories. She hasn't used it yet, which seems like a shame. David will rectify that.
That's so he can make sure Jason doesn't have a heartbeat after Norman gets done with him, by golly.
He watches Jason and the goons drive away and slips into the warehouse. He verifies that that statue he saw is full of heroin and takes it with him to Jason's office. That's where the real goodies are. Now, today, none of this would be admissible in court because once he removes the statue and the ledger from the place, he can't prove where they came from. There's no chain of custody to establish that they belong to Jason. Things were a bit more flexible in 1977, so those items should be enough to put Jason away. That ledger will soon be his.
Hey, listen, I want you to make sure DeMarco gets that delivery now, okay?
Or not. Or yes. He's making sure to keep his own fingerprints off it. That should mean the only ones there will be Jason's. He has the ledger in a manila envelope, the statue is in a big shopping bag, and he's made his escape. Now he needs to get this stuff to Norman and Leo before they decide to do something stupid.
Norman! Norman!
Who is it?
David!
Oh, David. Hi.
Carol, is your father home?
No, he and Leo had a business meeting with Uncle Jason. He left about a half an hour ago.
In other words, he's too late. They're on their way to do something stupid.
What's the matter?
Listen to me very carefully. You must hide this bag, then call the police and have them meet me in Jason's Park Avenue garage. Oh, and that envelope. It has a ledger in it with some fingerprints on it, so be very careful.
David, the police, why?
Jason wants your father to kill Leo.
I don't believe you.
Now they're both on their way to kill him, and believe me, that's suicide. Now you hide that bag and call the police now.
He just ripped a big hole in her whole world, and he hasn't even gotten to the worst part. He grabs a cab and hopes to get to Jason's place first.
Look, I'm really in a hurry. Isn't there something you can do?
I'm doing the best I can.
So much for hopes. It's 5 minutes before 5, and Norman and Leo are in the parking garage watching Jason's car, while David sits in his cab and watches many cars.
I've got to be there by 5.
Hey, mister, you're gonna be 10 minutes late, so just keep your shirt on.
Okay, take your shirt off if you want to. He breaks out of the cab and starts down the street. He's retaining just enough of David to know where he's going and what he needs to do. He runs through Times Square, hence the name of the episode, where some people run away screaming and others stop and stare like New Yorkers. But he doesn't have time to pose for pictures. He has some lives to save. Jason is in the elevator heading for his car. It's 1 minute before 5.
Hey, Jack, that green creature of yours was just seen running through Times Square.
Heading which way?
Heading which way? Towards Park Avenue.
Jack has spotted him on the street and he's trying to follow him on foot. That's a great joke right there.
Well, you're right on time. I appreciate that.
I didn't kill Leo, Jason. I couldn't.
You're way too close to him, Norman. A quick swat with his hand and you don't have your gun anymore.
What the? Somebody stop him!
There's also the possibility that a Hulk will come along and put you up against the wall.
Get him!
I like how they always say get him. What does he want them to do? Although it really doesn't matter because they're not in a condition to do anything.
Get away from me!
Here come the sirens, so that's the Hulk's cue to exit. Norman and Leo are both all right. The police have arrested Jason and his pals, so the protection nightmare is over, and Jack missed the Hulk again. It's been a pretty good day. I like this one. We developed the Hulk a little more as far as what he remembers after the changes. Jack Crucian and Arnie Freeman were lovable as Norman and Leo, two old guys prepared to give up their own lives to free their friends from Jason after they sober up. Pamela Schupa's Carol was touching. She played the naive young woman who suddenly realizes she lives in an ugly world perfectly, and her goodbye with David could almost bring you to tears. The only thing we might call a plot hole is the phone call David made at the beginning. We never came back to that, even though we got the impression that was his whole reason for being in New York. Now he's leaving without ever having talked to the guy. If you're confused, take heart. You're not half as confused as David is. acting was about argue with me. Leaving, he's the doting adopted uncle. He needs to see this.